Great. So finally we are live. I
Yeah,
hope everyone can see us.
can't see anything.
You can't see anything?
Yes, now yes.
Great. So
Now it's
finally
working.
we are live. I
Yeah,
hope everyone can see us.
can't see anything.
Cool. So, all right. So hello there. So we had some technical difficulties here. Um, we are still not that used to working with Zoom and YouTube together, but finally I think we've managed to get it. We've got Justin here as well. The people will be dropping in now bit by piece by piece. And welcome everyone to this Slack Talk session. And we're really proud to access to talk about tricklining and especially in the form of competitions. So from that perspective, we've got some interesting guests here. And I would just like to welcome everyone from that side bit by bit and maybe ask what you guys have been up to. And so Rosa, Choza, how are you guys doing? How's Peru?
Kind of weird right now. We're like, with all the coronavirus, it's getting like everything crazy. I don't know. So we managed yesterday to get out of the city, and we have came to the desert. So we're finally breathing some air and
Por fin entrenar.
freedom. We can train. I mean, it's been 4 months for us without training or touching a slackline. You know, it's been really hard.
That must be nice then being back basically. Is this the location where you always have your videos basically happening?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, sounds really interesting. Is it far away or is it like your special spot?
It's kind of far. I mean, we live in the capital in the city, which is Lima, and this is like 250 kilometers from the city, so it's not that far. The thing is, like, we are like in the middle of the desert, so we have no electricity and stuff like that. So it's kind of more expensive to be here than in the city. That's why we couldn't get here earlier, you know. And we
Crazy.
can stay like for too long right now because we're not working or doing pretty much anything in the city.
Yeah, but we'll see there. We're currently talking about these things anyway. We've got projects.
I know.
And yeah, who else have we got? Jan, we just heard about you doing 2 shows today.
Yeah, like it's not a common thing, but somehow today I had 2. I mean, it's not common after so long period of break. But yeah, it was great. One was in the old town of Tallinn, and the second was for some public event. And yeah, easy peasy. Just it's a lot of work always. It's like preparation is the main work, as usual.
So perhaps for those who haven't dipped into slacklining that much, maybe if I quickly introduce people as well from a perspective of someone who hasn't maybe seen that much of us. I have to start, of course, with Rosa here. She's an exceptional slackliner when it comes to dynamic static moves. There's very graceful movements and actually has a big Instagram channel in that sense. And we always love having her here in our sessions, as well as Choza, our current world champion in team tricklining. He managed in his first year, last year, together with his brother actually, to win the World Slackline Masters in Munich with incredibly high tricks. In the middle here, at least from my screen, I've got Jan. Jan here has got a long history in slacklining and has done loads and loads of things from Madonna and all sorts of Hollywood movies, stuntman work, of course, winning competitions in all sorts of ways, and at the moment working for Red Bull as well, as far as I know. And then, of course, a special guest, long time. We've been in contact lately, and finally, I'm happy to see Justin here. And Justin has got the Trickline Collective. Am I right?
Yeah.
He's created a fantastic movie basically about a new form of freestyle slacklining basically. It's basically combining the elements of highlining and tricklining into a new type of movement. Next here, I also have Marius Kitowski from Germany, Rosenheim, who I believe just recently won a trickline contest in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
So we've still got people out there rocking and going strong and trying to still enjoy life, basically. And on the next German here on the list is Benni, who is also a fantastic trickliner from Germany, has done also those stunts, moves, shows, and so on, and also has been working for various shows, and also I think won a contest as well for Red Bull, the Red Bull contest, and did loads and loads of exciting things. And you see him a lot in our videos, basically. Then next to him, I see Alex Bibi. Alex is already, you could say, in the trickline scene, a legend when it comes down to organizing contests together with the Slack and Jump family in France. He's just created a crazy video, and is sort of like the contest father of trickline communities in France, and puts his heart and soul into tricklining. Then as well, we have Axel here, who is here with us with GIBBON, an avid climber and passionate slackliner, and sort of like sees things from also very interesting perspectives, as he's also studied sustainability management, and from that perspective it brings in always a new approach and interesting perspective. So I believe we still have, are we complete now, or did we lose in the process of getting the chat back online? Did we lose anyone?
No, as far as I know, I think we have everybody.
Great.
The only person was that, yeah, there's parentheses. Philip was supposed to be there, Philip Oleksy from Poland, but he just went out of the hospital. He was there for 2 weeks and just got out. So he just called me and said that he was just not in shape and just wanted to take care and take a rest. He has the link, so if he feels like he might join the meeting, but not sure.
Cool. So I've also got basically our chat running here with our live stream, and I can see a few nice people here from the community. I've got Nikolai Shelamov here. I've got Felix Brodoj. I can see Rider 93 from Japan. Sorry, dude. It's stuck, basically. It's basically, we organized the first King of Slackline contest, and it's a Japanese dude. Isn't his name Hiro? I can't remember. Write down your name, Rider 93, so we can all tell it to the world. And he was in the list of the participant of the first King of Slackline number 93, and from that on, he called all his profiles 93. That's a nice little story. So yeah, so we're here basically for a very interesting topic, because
Mirayo also.
Oh yeah, Mirayo is here as well, yes. So Mirayo, you're still, I believe, in Dubai, sitting ducks basically with his show. So best to you. And I believe he was taking over the account lately. And yeah, really nice to have him here on board as well. So basically, say again, please.
I'm looking at the face of Jaan.
Okay. Yeah, Jaan has been working together with him in Dubai. So basically, we've got these great people here together in this round, and I'm really looking forward to having an interesting conversation. We've put a lot of thought into the whole future of slacklining, or not slacklining, but rather tricklining, and especially also in the principles of contests. And I think from that perspective, I'm really looking forward to this whole talk. So perhaps to start off with this whole thing, not to disturb you, Marius, but of course we would all be very much interested in how it was during the times of Corona and to be part in a contest.
It was pretty surprising, because the Czechs, they have a rule that every event, as long as it's outdoor, can be held up to 1,000 participants. So coming from Austria, where I was stuck in my room for 1 month, I guess, and where every show got cancelled, and I mean, I'm between Austria and Germany all the time, so I had to cross the border. And both countries are completely locked down. There are no competitions, no events, and it's just slowly getting back. And in Czech, they all welcomed us and said, yeah, we don't lost any shows. It's still going strong. And it was really nice. And it was really refreshing to get back into competitions, because normally I train just for the month June and July and have all competitions there. And there are no competitions as we kind of lost. So it was really refreshing to get back into a competition mode.
That's really nice. I guess we're all happy for you in that sense. So basically, if we look at it from, oh yeah, I can see Philip Oleksik, who unfortunately couldn't make it to this talk, is also part of the chat. So hi, Philip, really nice to see you here. Yes, so I guess we should ask perhaps the first question, and that is basically, where do you see tricklining basically, or trickline contests happening after the crisis, and what are your dreams and hopes basically? And from that perspective, I would love to ask you guys into the round and maybe see like what comes out of it. So Justin, perhaps from your side, it would be very much interesting to see as well, because you guys are also probably in a very crazy times at the moment in the US. Do you want to share your thoughts and experiences maybe?
Totally. I mean, in the States, it's kind of a different situation where pretty much all gatherings have been canceled. So all my shows are gone for the summer, which is kind of unfortunate, but you can definitely see, you know, things are going to come back eventually in one way or another. But just thinking about the sport of tricklining, I think accessibility is big. I think the sport's like lost a little bit of steam because people got good really, really fast, and the sport evolved to the point where it was at a super high level and you didn't have a lot of influx of talent from the bottom, you know, like people getting into the sport. And so I think there, you know, this new world of like trampoline tricklining, I call it, which is just like extreme double and triple flips and competition, is awesome. But incorporating some sort of comp that's a little more accessible to everyone else, like having the GIBBON contest is awesome. And then also, you know, thinking about a judging format that's going to be accessible too, you know, something that's not based on numbers or robotic, because I think that pushed the sport to a point that was like a little bit unhealthy to the point where people were just doing tricks for their numbers. And so I think you touched on a little bit earlier, Robert, but like bringing the sport back to its like, you know, skating-esque roots is kind of something cool to shoot for. But accessibility, I think, is big.
Great. So I guess we're all experiencing these things and asking ourselves basically, how can we sort of like get out of this situation? Of course, we can talk about trickline competitions online, where there are loads of ideas which could happen. But in the end, it's a sport where we've always imagined to get the social aspect together behind the whole story. And I think with tricklining, as its level, as you said, basically it rose to a level at such speed, which was absolutely incredible, where the market couldn't even catch up with the whole thing, and it sweeps away sort of like the base. And the crazy thing is, there's nothing bad about all these things. It's actually fantastic. And and from that perspective, I think there are of course different aspects and approaches. So I guess another aspect, you know, when you look at Choza, for example, he comes from a very athletic perspective, where he's been looking at, for example, to really excel and be basically one of the best trickliners that are currently out there, and puts it from a very athletic perspective. And I think maybe to understand better, and I guess he would love to have been here. We have in the US a guy called Kyle, who's created basically the American Trickline Association with an extremely complex and really crazy software tool for judging, because judging has become a big topic, and fairness, I guess. So perhaps is there anything on your side where you want to say like judging evolving from your own perspective? Do you see basically that the system of fairness based on an exact calculation on which points system is really relevant? How do you guys see it? Jaan, maybe perhaps from your side.
Yeah, go.
Say again, sorry.
Basically, from where do you basically see the judging system? Where do you see it evolving?
I'll see it evolving towards like ice skating currently. Well, it's not. It's kind of limiting in a way that it requests riders to do exact moves, and that's holding it back, that creative side, and also like remembering back in the days all those competitions. Like remember people pulling the last tricks, or like just pulling, creating, including something in their own. Like it was way more interesting, and it pushed the sport further when you left the space for a freestyle. And we don't have that much space anymore. We are doing it for the computer.
That's of course a very extremist and radical approach from that side.
Yeah.
I guess there's always been an idea behind the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like what I see. Like I'm not saying it's like bullshit or whatever. It's just an option. It has a good side of it, but yeah.
I guess Axel, we have created a little presentation, I think, which refers sort of like at the whole aspect of where we see basically where tricklining is going, and where we feel like sort of like where we can sort of like put our mindset on it and sort of like put more focus on it, because I think there's no judging system really that is wrong. There's just always a style or a different category basically within slacklining where you could say like here this type of judging is important and here it's not so important, if you understand what I mean.
But if I jump quickly, because I'm also speaking with Bibi at the same time to translate everything to French. Donc Alex, je traduis vite fait ce que tu m'as écrit. And so basically Bibi is just saying that he agrees with what Justin you just said, and that the problem is that we reach a level where like to get new people in also it's very impressive. That now people are just like everything looks very big, and that you have points for tricks and you need to know the points for each tricks, that it just push back some people to jump in competitions.
I guess like I said, all this quality that has been created is nothing that is bad, but it's sort of like is overtaken of what's happening and what people can follow. And I think we've put in our descriptions, by the way, we've put links and descriptions of all the athletes in our description page, basically, of this live stream. And from that perspective, there is this approach. This has happened in the past. Basically, we've had, when you look at skateboarding in the late 70s, it sort of like died away or dived into sort of like a situation where nobody could follow anymore what was happening with skateboarding. The setups and everything weren't that good, and it ended up sort of like in a second wave of slacklining, skateboarding, which was based on a grassroots movement. People started building their own ramps in the backyard and then started inviting basically people in. And actually what happened was then that the skateboard brands started doing tours and having contests in the backyards. So you had Tony Hawk, Steve Caballero, somewhere in Nebraska, at a half pipe where basically some father wanted to entertain his son and built a huge half pipe there, and then they all the kids met there and had their own session there.
So parentheses, quickly, Robert, can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, of course.
And to jump back, you have the link to the documentary that Robert is speaking about in the description of the live. And I can also send it to everybody after the talk if you haven't seen it.
Good. So, like I said, the way we see it is so far we've been. So we're getting a screen up here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will just jump straight away here.
All right. So maybe this is sort of like the way we interpret the situation, that we've done basically a top-down approach on the development of the sport and all these factors basically. And when you look at it, we've got basically for 1% of the trickline world, one of a super high level judging system, really actually well-structured ideas for how to create contests, not just one type of contest, actually several types of contests. They are highly entertaining, they're super spectacular, but they're already at a level where, yeah, you have a line that is 30 meters long, 2 meters high, and the people fly 5 meters high over the line, so that they're 7 meters flying, and it's at a level which is incredible. And at the same time, it's something which is of course super spectacular, but it sort of like serves on a national and international level only around 5% accessibility. And we feel like sort of like we should look more at the grassroots aspect, in which is basically fun and enjoying this whole side, and providing support to the community with our expertise and knowledge, so that simply more competitions can happen. So
this is an awesome graphic. I love it, and I think it like really reflects on like what we really care about, you know, as slackliners is the community. That's like the coolest thing about it, you know. It's like I'm sure all of us can like look back and say, okay, what are the best parts of slacklining? It's like the people we've met and the places we've been, and creating like, oh, the idea of like these grassroots contests where you can involve everyone in the community, you know, that has like a minimum level of slackline ability is really awesome. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the discussion of like, how can we perfect the trickline judging system, and we kind of forget about everybody else and like this influx of involvement.
I just jumped a slide quickly. It was just a quick example. That's not the perfect example, but that was just for a small Slackline festival we had last year, if I'm not wrong. And we just did like a small GIBBON contest, and we just had like 2 parallel lines and a piece of tree cut, and just everybody participated. And people that are like non-trickliner people, and it was just at the end is maybe not the best competition ever, but it's just that it's accessible and everybody can just jump in and just try.
I guess we followed a logical path, and a logical path is to improve the fairness, the quality, but also by standards. And by standards, I mean, for example, if you maybe switch to the football pitch, I have a question for you guys. Do you know, I mean, we all know football or soccer. Does anyone of you know the official dimensions of a football pitch?
There is no.
There is no dimension. There are differences of up to 50 meters in size. If you compare, for example, I think Nou Camp in Barcelona is like over 120 meters long. And then there's another stadium somewhere else where you could easily host a World Cup, and it's only like 95 meters long. The biggest sport in the world doesn't have a standard for how big the pitch is. And I think we can, I try to sort of like interpretate the whole thing for slacklining, and especially of course for tricklining here in that respect. And what I felt was it's it's not so applicable for the top level tricklining when you start really getting a higher level. But for the grassroots movements, hey, who cares? I think the only thing that is important is that you say in advance, dudes, we're going to have a contest and it's going to be on a jib line that is only 10 meters long and 2 feet high. Full stop. Are you joining? This is it. You know, and as long as it's that way around, it's no problem. You know, and as I've always followed the principle of, what was it, Kelly Slater, who bet that he could surf on Baywatch's door, you know, and you just have to be then better, or the circumstances are always for everyone the same in the end. So I think that's an interesting aspect when you look at it from that perspective. And I think it comes down to various questions, I think. If you maybe want to jump to the next presentation page.
Yeah. I just have the screen opposite.
So I guess what we ask ourselves is like, what are the key motivational factors to host a grassroots contest or to host grassroots contests? And I think, I mean, if you have anything to add in that side, we feel you have to be passionate about the sport. You need to love the sport and do it from a perspective that there's a certain interest for you also to grow your own community around you. And that is of course always the social aspect, which comes into play, and to have the opportunity to challenge each other and to push each other as well, because I guess all of you guys can immediately take off and say like, it's much more fun to Slackline with someone who's at your level or perhaps even better.
Yeah, that was a discussion we were having with Benni not long ago, that just like as soon as you visit Marius, or that there is Felix or Emmanuel around, you just rise up the motivation to just train and not keep training alone.
If I could quick hook in here, it's a perfect example for what happened in Czech Republic on the weekend, because, okay, in this case, they had 2 lines, but they said from the beginning, they will find a line that will suit everybody. And they said from the beginning, we don't have crash pads. It's going to be over solid sand. So like, I mean, in this case, I was the only one sucking because I was the heaviest one, but I didn't mind. But the whole topic about this was that there were, I think, 5 people under the age of 18, and they were all rocking. There was a family with 3 young guys who I have never seen before, from 8 years, 12 years, and 16 years, and one girl with 16 years old that I also have never seen before. But she said she was too afraid to come to the big competitions. But at this competition, it was super much fun for her, because the line was, she was not afraid of the line, and she was kind of in her home environment, because it was in Czech Republic, so she could understand everything. And she learned, I think, 3 new tricks in this whole competition. And one of the guys landed his first backflip in this competition, and his younger brother also landed his first, I think, 360 in the competition. So the whole topic was that because of this lower line and not this high-class competition, but I mean, it was a small village competition, the community got really involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's an awesome example, you know, to show how like it doesn't need to be the best standard or everything to have fun, basically. And I think talking about, and we can come to that topic a little bit later, basically, on how we can sort of like improve also the higher level or the top level of tricklining competitions and ways to improve that. But I think one answer already I can give in advantage is, if you have a base, it's easier. And I think that's a topic where I feel it's like, you guys have collected so much, how can I say, you've collected so much experience and quality and style and just mindset, basically, of redefining constantly the way how you work, basically, on a slackline, whether it's as a trick line, a high line, a long line, a freestyle high line, and even just a rodeo line on a crazy level. But at the same time, it's something that needs to be passed on I feel, in a certain way, and that's the difficulty that's always been, because I mean, you guys needed simply time to get to this level, so you had to deal a lot with yourself. But at the same time, I feel it's also something, a great opportunity, which I see, where we could maybe find a solution to connect also our efforts towards supporting the grassroots movement and finding a new base as well, to get more competition going. Because the more trickliners there are out there, the more competitions will happen, the higher the bidding will be. And I think from that perspective, it's been a dilemma, I think, in the past, that these contest movements were immediately pushed by companies like us, you know, and all the people that evolved from there, and all the other brands. And the contest structure was pushed sort of like from underneath, from basically commercial companies in that sense. And speak honestly in that sense. And but we needed sort of like, and it evolved at such a rate that sort of like it lost its ground as well. So we're looking at it from a critical point of view for ourselves as well, that it needs actually more support for the base. And I think if you look at these things, and you can break this now down, of course, when you look at the presentation, because what are the key things to enable basically a contest? And so far, what we've listed up and looked at, I'm sorry, Zoom is sort of like always in the way. If you organize a contest, which contest system should I follow? Is there a common standard that is maybe easy, understandable? Maybe I don't even know how to organize a contest, but I just want to have a contest here because I have some people around here. And I think that's something, these are questions which come up. I don't know how to judge. I don't know which system to use. The standards currently required are incredibly high. I Trickline alone, or we are too little. There's nobody else here. I don't know how to communicate about the event. I don't have gear. And I think...
Yeah, just to jump in quickly, yeah. Those questions are basically on all the social media accounts of GIBBON. Those are the main questions. I will receive everyday questions of, hey, we are just two, we have no community around us, but we love the sport. Please help us. And for us as a brand, it's quite hard because besides telling them like, hey guys, you can just check on Facebook, teach people, here are videos, or to help to teach people or give advice. It's hard to really help in a concrete way. So it's a bit about how to balance that and how to find something to do.
Yeah, I guess we will come up with a few ideas and solutions how we imagine how we as a brand and as a company can support this movement. But I think the first thing that has to arise is an idea and a common belief basically in this idea that it is good for the sport and for any type of dedication that lies behind it. These are certain factors. And I think when you look at these bottlenecks, I don't know if you have any others which would you feel limit you in that sense. But I think when I started, I can speak only for myself. When I started in 2006, I had basically nothing but a line. And my idea was, when I set it up, is I used it to socialize. So I set it up, and then people would come around, get involved in it. And the next day I would have not just me, but actually friends of mine or whatever would come together, and then it would just grow step by step. And it would suddenly get to a point where it felt like it was a public event. And then even more people would come in. And that's something we really enjoyed, because you would never know really who would come the next time, would anyone new come, and it's an exciting part basically behind the whole idea of slacklining. And I think it's something where we want to support basically the possibility for you guys as well as athletes to connect basically more again with the base. That's where we want to put more support in. And at the same time, we want to help with simple tools, because if you, I think, look at what you would need in the end, it's basically just some form you can fill out, anything like a Facebook group with an event to launch. And then I think there are certain platforms we should create. There are, of course, certain platforms that are already existing, and that might be something we could talk about as well. I mean, the ISA has created a very structured and very organized system where you can throw in your events. There's a link to the page, by the way, as well on YouTube. And you have various opportunities in that sense. But all you really need for a contest, you need a place, you need some gear, you need to make some form of an announcement, you need a judging system, and in the end, you need some sort of a reward. I mean, when I look at how skateboard contests are held in a rural or in a local area here in Stuttgart, you throw out some flyers into a skate shop or make a Facebook group and just basically organize and say, like, anyone who wants to participate throws 10 euros into a hat. And at the end of the day, the people who throw the money in decide who gets the whole money. And that person then in the end has to invite everyone for a beer or an iced tea. And so I think that's sort of like how things can happen. And like a contest could be define a spot basically in the forest, collect the GPS coordinates, because questions also arise like, where can I do this? And I think it can be in the backyard, theoretically. It can also be somewhere in the forest. It can be a slackline park. I mean, the slackline parks are starting to grow more and more. I mean, you see them at least here in Europe more and more. And you create a Facebook event, you explain on what the contest has been held. So you say like, hey, I'm going to do it with a sick ass big line, and I've got an airbag here underneath there. And oh yeah, by the way, it's in my garden in Poland, Philip. And then you throw in some money, and then you have some fun today for the day, you know. And I think these are sort of like just thought process. We are trying to open ourselves more and give ourselves the opportunity to sort of like help to inspire. And then maybe if you switch to the next slide, help to create, provide certain tools, for example, you know, very simple tools like a standard sheet with rules you can print out with a judging template. I mean, again, skateboarding shows an excellent example with Battle of the Barracks. It's basically just a rule sheet on a piece of paper, and that creates the game. And I think from there on, we can, for example, help also to create our platforms to inform people where to find stuff like an ISA calendar. But I think that's something. And then, of course, I would love to, and that's something we are still in the thought process, but we are probably going to do it. If all goes well next year, or depending on whenever it goes well, we want to basically really promote these grassroots movements, and then basically say that any of the events that sound and look very interesting upon application, we will do a road trip with the community, with the team, and visit basically all these local contests and reward basically the people who've put a lot of effort into to promote basically the sport. And we want to also support with material. So we're going to announce basically, what do you call it, raffles or like pitchings, so that basically people can apply. And we will have certain amounts of prizes, material and stuff like that to hand out, so that people can actually create contests. The thing though is, we maybe be amongst the big players basically in the world of slackline industry, but it's still a very small business, and we will never be able with our budgets to lever this. We can try our best, and we will put a lot of effort into to create a world championship again next year. We're planning on doing something in Berlin on a large scale, but again, we're a company that sells products and not an event agency. And I think there might be, if we put our efforts together and find a common ground to create maybe new forms of possibilities also for guys like you, like Justin or Jaan or Marius, Benni. You're all already basically event agencies, you know, and can host and organize international large-scale contests, theoretically. You have the skill and mindsets. And that we find solutions as well to create interest like that upon the space for external sponsors and other brands to get involved into this whole thing and to make it grow from there. Because the advantage we actually have now, we have a lot of thought process which is for the future. We've developed actually already like the level, so we could theoretically, we're 1 or 2 steps away to have something like an Olympic scale contest in that sense. When we look at it, that it's theoretically possible now at this skill set and this organizational practice. But in the end, like I say again, it's the base we shouldn't forget.
And then I jump back in, and this has a direct question to Marius. For example, just to take an example and see how things can evolve. Marius, what would stop you to just organize your own contest at your training spot? Because technically you have the spot, you have the line. You could just say, hey people, Marius Invitational contest at my place.
To be honest, I've already thought about this. Because my initial plan was like in summer, because I had some events planned for this summer that would have come out in April, which would have taken place in Austria. And I thought, okay, afterwards, let's go at my place, and depending on how many people we are, creating a sort of competition or a big jam session or some sort of format, call it. And I had it actually already planned. I wanted to announce it in April, but then, yeah.
No, you can announce it for September.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll come to Innsbruck in September.
Again, I have a lot of experience I made in the past from skateboarding before I started slacklining. And I mean, I have always in my mind, for example, also a guy like Mike Vallely, who is like a hardcore punk rock skateboarder who jumps down half pipes into banks and stuff like that at a time where nobody would dare to do that. And he, every year he would go and do a tour around from east to west, basically down the coastline, and just stop at any skate park and skate with the kids. And he created sort of like an aura around that, which was incredible because he created the street respect on the base and had sort of like built up a really nice fan club around as well for him. Because they struggled at a certain point as well with this whole aspect of accessibility, and the level of what you guys are doing is so high that it's actually intimidating, and it needs sort of like a base to find a common ground so that people are interested in joining in. And yeah, so I think from that perspective, it's very interesting what we can do potentially.
Actually, I would have one more to hook in, because in Czech Republic they also did a GIBBON competition, and this was, I think, the perfect example for you don't need judges, etc. Because I mean, you all know me, I'm the worst GIBBOner the world can think of, and the format of this competition was that it was like a sort of game of Slack. I mean, just with 3 letters, because we were, I think, 16 competitors. And it just started from person to person, and the person doing the first trick had just 1 try, so just to make it a bit faster. And in the end, the whole competition, I think, lasts for 1.5 hours, and it was super fun because one of these 3 young guns created a trick nobody could beat. And so, like, for this kid, it was mind blow. And I first thought of, okay, they're gonna be like hard tricks, everybody gonna do 540s feet to feet. But in the end, it was just simple tricks like 1-arm lever, foot drop or something, and Felix killed it with a handstand. Like it was kind of like the Beat Andy format we had in ISPO. And I think this was pretty interesting because all we had was a small jib line, 16 motivated people, and nothing more. And it was super fun. And I think the vibe was just as high, or if not higher, as in the main jump line competition.
Yeah. So I guess we all agree that there's a lot of appeal and interest and a nice base basically to go into these grassroots movements. I think one thing I would be, so like I said, we will start basically doing some announcements fairly soon this year when it comes down to making offers basically, so that we will offer you guys, the whole community, everyone, whether it's Marius, whether it's some guy in Nebraska or some guy in South America, they can contact us and we will see to what level we can support, and we will start making suggestions based also on the ideas. And I think one important tool, like we'll always come back to the whole story, is sort of like the judging. And I guess we have with Bibi, we have here an expert from the American Trickline Association who's taking care of the judging system here in France. Which is at a very high level, and what Kyle has created is incredible. But like Jaan, you said, we are facing certain challenges now on the other side, you know. And I think that's sort of like the situation we've been having. I think Jaan, you mentioned sort of like that you were sort of like describing the current situation. You sent me an article earlier by Red Bull. About basically how Red Bull interprets it. Do you want to maybe elaborate a little bit about it?
Well, they're describing how to judge freestyle sports. Like the guy who wrote that article, he tells basically that. Let's see, because I found it out recently. I didn't go through all the way.
Mm-hmm.
At least. Well, he's pointing out like the overall impression of the judges, that it's hard to judge, or like otherwise all the competition, they will go in towards becoming like, you know, acrobatics or the figure skating, when you have the point systems for specific tricks, and then it just it's not, well, even that right now, if we are using this system, like we are not judging how clean is the run, or we don't really judge like overall right now, like in different aspects. We judge.
Perhaps understand. Jaan is currently in a hostel because he's just finished 2 shows, so his access is a little bit limited.
If you want,
let me read out quickly what it says. The general philosophy of the idea of the way they work with their judging systems, no matter what freestyle sport they are approaching, is overall impression, and it's not limited by rules, but rather by judging can be very subjective, they say actually. So they turn it around and say like there are certain factors that just have to be looked at to really push the sport as well, because they say as well, it's like if you put everything into a definition, you eventually end up with stagnation, because the judging system itself will face the same difficulty we've been facing over the last 10 years with slacklining, that it's developing quicker than any administrative system can actually handle. I think, Justin, you're studying analysis, or I think you can sing a song when it comes to the way data goes in and comes out and gets filtered. And once the biggest bottleneck is always a person, and you can only give a point system behind it, not just from the physics, but in the end, there's a certain individual character behind it, and that makes it hard and makes it really, really hard.
Oh, that's a really good point, and I love the idea of the overall impression being kind of the major metric. Guys, unfortunately, I have to jump off. I'm in a grad school class right now on the other computer, so I'm trying to balance. Right. But hey, I've loved this discussion about the grassroots movement, and I think I've had some similar ideas developing in my own head. So I think we're on the same page about a lot of this stuff, and love to be in touch with all of you about making some things like this happen. So
I would like to just join forces in that sense,
absolutely,
you know, to go beyond it, because I mean we've always had this dilemma in the past that on the one hand we're a brand, on the other hand we try to be part of a community that we are just
absolutely great. yeah, and I think you're your idea of, you know, this community support of little grassroots organizations is great. And yeah, I think there's a ton of opportunity for partnership.
All right. I wish you all the best in the name of all of us, and hope that you stay safe and that the coronavirus doesn't annoy you too much. And
you as well.
Have a good time, and we're looking forward to any of the projects you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for the chat, everybody.
Yeah. And by the way, his link is in the description, basically, if you want to check out what Justin is doing. So yeah, what I could do, maybe I could jump quickly into the screen to show you guys, basically. So what you can see is that they look at an overall impression comprised of the aspects of execution, difficulty, amplitude, variety, and progression. Progression is something which I find very interesting, because the rest of the things sound very similar actually to how we've been judging in the past. Execution, how well is the trick executed? Is it clean, stylish, basically? Is it with a grab? Difficulty, how difficult is really the trick? Is it, yeah. And I think that's also already a very subjective thing, because I think, at least I know from various freestyle sports, it's like a 180 can sometimes be harder than a 720. And it depends how you fly. And that makes it hard for, of course, for any type of system to interpret it. And then, of course, amplitude is a very important factor. Variety, we used to call that always diversity. And progression is a very interesting part. And that's, I think, something Jaan has been approaching as well. Is there something new happening? Is there something that is pushing the realms of the sport? Is it going into a new direction? Are unusual things happening? And I think, for example, I would suggest if we could create, for example, a very simple template based on, let's say, just these rules, have it available as a PDF for people to print out, and create additional toolkits to just plug and play and create a contest anywhere, anytime. I think the next aspect, what you would need in that respect, is a platform where you can share it so that it creates attention. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, simply.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I guess again, there are of course other directions. I mean, I've been lately pretty crazy about beatbox loop station stuff. You might have seen it in the Slack mag, and they do it very simple. They just have 5 people. They invite athletes. Often it's the world champion of the last year takes a break and then becomes a judge. And then you just have 5 judges. They just look at what's happening and then they say left, right, finished. That's it. Those are the rules basically. And you just have very experienced people. I think Andy was addressing this way of judging, I think, in the past, where he'd say like, hell, I think I could have made the same decisions just by standing there by myself and doing the judging. Yeah. So I guess coming out, at least from my side, the message goes that we really want to make it easier and more accessible and have more fun about it. I think addressing the last suspect, or do you guys have any more things to address towards like this more grassroots idea approach, being more flexible perhaps on the judging systems? I think one thing what we will have to understand, of course, if we have a world ranking system, it needs, of course, some sort of a standard, at least where you can collect points. Yeah. And I think you could either have it sort of like in a 2 different stages or aspects or categories, where one is more sort of like oriented to the performance level judging, where, yeah, it could be a mix, but it could also be just something like Red Bull, or it could just be something like ATA. And then we have, of course, the other part, and that is sort of like more the, yeah, let's not care too much about how the judging works, but make it as easy and accessible and as realizable as possible.
Yeah, I've done that because I see a message from Felipe in the conversation, and he's saying that basically big impression and emotional cannot be in judging system. For example, if a guy lands a first trick ever in a contest and the other one made an amazing clean run, how do you measure it? But this for this kind of problem is just what we talk about. I feel it's really just the 1 to 5% of the Trickline contest. That's exactly the dilemma we have like for the World Slackline Master. And we are already into a competition, like in a grassroots contest. Marius, maybe you will let me know if I'm wrong. At your competition in Czech Republic, do you think that they had a dilemma when judging between a world first and a mega clean run?
I think actually that's why I wanted to give up for the later talk. The cool thing about the judging system there, I mean, it was a classic old school judging system. I mean, one judge was Philipp Bittner, I think most of you know, and they just did classic old school judging, like amplitude style and so on, you name it. But the cool thing about this judging was that you had more time to involve the crowd. Because normally I think like in my case, I know there's a point system, I try to waste not a single second, because every second I waste is points I lose. But in this case, I know they also will create a performance and their interaction with the public, and therefore you created grabs or one-arm levers, back levers, etc. And with this, the whole vibe of the whole competition increased to a whole other level. But if you would not do this and rather figure skating, you won't have this vibe.
I guess what I would love to hear from you, Choza, is I think your story is a little bit of a different one. You know, when you come from a very athletic gymnastics side, you were at a very, very high level and sort of like moved basically into slacklining, into tricklining, and eventually. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think that is sort of like always been your strategic approach. I know a similar story from Emmanuel Bump, who's also been like a semi-professional gymnast, who goes very methodically at everything, you know, simply from the past. And I imagine you go very methodically at how you approach your way, how to learn your tricks, your combos, your routines at a very competitive perspective. And I think there's always been, you know, this where will it go in the future? Because I mean, I don't feel like it's reached, even the top peak has reached anything. There's still a lot of room, you know, to where it can go, and it can become a lot more professional and so on. But I think at the same time, it's already showing where it could be Olympic, you know. I see you like as a typical protege. If now the time would be right, you would be just there, you know, at that point.
Yeah, for me, I have like very different opinion in that way. I mean, I have always think that having a judging system, a clear judging system, it's always going to be better than having none as an athlete, because you can prepare for a competition on some way. I mean, if I have like 3 judges saying, I don't like it, or I like it, or I don't know, it's like, for me, I cannot prepare for that. So it's like kind of weird going there, and I don't know how it's going to be. So having a judging system, even if it's bad, but it's clear, for me, it works, you know? But for amateurs, for people who is starting in the sport, it's good to have like more flexible thing, you know, where anyone can get involved into the sport and then be evolving. So it's good for them having like I don't know, more. The rules doesn't matter that much when they're like when they're learning the sport. I have like 2 points of view there.
Yeah.
But a judging system for me has to be like has to be mathematical in some aspects, but not like ATA, for example. For me, ATA was like way too I don't know how to explain it. It's like, okay, you have points and you have no subjective part. So if I start going like really high, I will obviously lose some seconds because I'm jumping higher, which is
Yeah.
hard too. But I will not going to do like maybe 30 tricks in 1 minute, but I'm going to do 20 or less.
Yeah.
But those tricks are going to be harder. So
Yeah.
there's got to be some balance, like with
Yeah.
the suggestive part and the mathematical part. You know?
So just to quickly get into the conversation, because I think that here it's important to Alex to understand everything. So I just make a parenthesis to translate in French and get his point of view of what Choza you just said.
Yeah, I have actually talked to Alex like a lot. We were in Portugal like for a time, and we were hanging in there and talking a lot with him, with Nathan, and everyone with the ATA. I mean, it's an interesting system, but there's got to be some improvements there, like amplitude, like I don't know, like the combos, for example. It's not the same to do uh, hard trick, hard trick, hard trick, then a lot of easy tricks than doing like easy trick, easy trick, hard trick. It's not the same. It's going to be always harder to do hard trick after hard trick because
Yeah.
you gotta be like way more high. I don't know. It's different.
It's like,
those kind of things are not like on that system.
I mean, it's funny, you know, you can really see how Trickline is evolving, you know. I mean, when you look at your style, you can clearly see this combination is clearly defined, so I can make the most efficient time as many tricks as possible in a way that multiplies to a system that is, as weirdly as it sounds, is actually quite beautiful because it's on pure physics. I mean, Kyle, who programmed this system, I find it actually in a certain way genius, because it's not just here is trick A and that gives this amount of points, and here is trick B, this is this amount of points. He actually defines basically the laws of physics with the rotations, and has a formula basically which then calculates how much points it gets. So for him, the system doesn't count a frog flip or whatever. It says you start from the chest and then you do a rotation in this axis, and then it basically sort of like is analyzed that this type of rotation is tendency harder than another type of rotation. So in that sense, put tons and tons of thoughts into it, and I feel it can definitely go better. I mean, we have to see it evolve, I think, from that side, and I believe the ATA system definitely needs to look at it and improvement. But when I think about it, that our judging system is more complex than the Olympic judging system for skateboarding, snowboarding, and there's a long list, you know, in that sense.
I think it's even more complex than the gymnastic one. It's like it's super complicated, but yeah, it cannot be like all mathematical, you know, but because you see some tricks, like for example, I remember the one that Tauri did once, like was a back bounce and like a mojo to back bounce.
Yeah.
Which is like a really, really hard trick. I mean, I can tell as a slackliner because I try to do that and it's impossible for me. But for the system, it was like back bounce, 180 back bounce. So it's like no points for them. For me, it was like, well, that trick is like really hard. I think Tori was the only one in the world that can do that. So it's not just mathematics, you know, it's like you have to have done those tricks. Like, there gotta be more criteria putting those scores. But it's good to have the scores at least. It's always gonna be there for me.
That's exactly what Bibi is writing to me, because I'm writing with Bibi in French so that we can keep it up. And Bibi, like right now, is just saying that basically the ATA has helped in France the level to rise. Because of the points, people had to do bigger tricks to get more points. And so it rises the level of trickliners.
Yeah, that's another thing. For me, a good judging system has to make the athlete get better. You know, I'm following this system. If I'm scoring higher, that's because I am getting better as a slackliner, as a trickliner. And also it has to be like inclusive. For example, in ATA, I'm just talking about ATA because we're all here, but there are a lot of judging systems happening right now. But the ATA was not that inclusive, for example, with statics moves that are like super hard tricks sometimes, and they are scoring like or feet to feet. I don't know. There are like so many different things. I mean, for Renzo was super easy to break that system because Renzo has like, it's one of the biggest trick lines. I mean, he does like the biggest tricks in the world right now. So it's like kind of easy for him to break that system. But it doesn't mean he's performing better, or I don't know, he's just going for that system in particular.
I guess we want to develop the sport, and that's why the competitive side comes in. And I think we've been nurturing and taking care of the sport on a high level, because the development, the level was rising so fast. But I mean, I have a similar example. It's like I would always annoy Carlos Neto, for example, who as a guy who won, I think, the World Slackline Masters in 2014, and could do double spirals, which is sort of like a chest bounce, and you rotate twice and then you come down. And then I would tell him, try a frontside truck driver 180 to chest. And he said, no, why? It's too scary. Because it's like you have rotation over the edge, you're grabbing your feet, and it's like, I have to chest bounce now?
But it's also like Choza was talking about, like, for example, Tauri back bounce 360, right? If we take, for example, Kolyamba, there are like so much tricks, which like for him it's like this, but for us it's like, no way, we rather do like double butt flips and, one by one, like 10 times easier to do it. Like, how do you check?
But Nikolai is simple. Nikolai, you just have to create a new category for him.
Smart guy.
I think there will always be these paradise birds of the sport, sort of like who just look at it from a different angle, and I think that's the beauty about the sport in a sense. But I think at the moment we're talking about, we do have to sort of like, and that's why I hope maybe this grassroots thing will allow also different categories to evolve. Because I think the first thing we really try to push now is to put in a second category with jib lining, to make it down again, and to have, because I mean, when you look at which Olympic medalist, Olympic athlete has the most amount of gold medals, then it's either always a cross-country skier or a swimmer. Because they've created like 20 different ways to have a race. It's ridiculous. It's like 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters, then relay, then 800 meters. What is it, 3 kilometers? I know, I'm just guessing. And then 5 different swimming types. No wonder you can win tons of gold medals, Same with cross-country skiing or biathlon. It's ridiculous. They have like 5 different disciplines. It's this and this, 5. You can win. I'm just throwing it out of you, but you can fact check whatever it is, in fact, but it's like just creating a new discipline,
I mean, this would be, if you compare it to swimming, it would be like we do a competition just for front flips and one competition just for back flips.
I want to get, and we're jumping now maybe to the last category of our talk as well, which we'll start gradually now bringing in. I want to see like 3-way combo competitions, 3 tricks, not more. No preparation, no butt to chest preparation. You have to stand from you can do maybe 1 bounce, and then you have to have 3 tricks. Done.
It's gonna be a hard one.
We could have a competition for 3-way combo, 5-way combo, longest run.
We should make the competition per size.
I mean, when you look at,
it's just then
for different weight classes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
just watched recently your double front flip, double frog flip, front flip,
Chest flip.
double chest front flip. That's the way around.
Or Brazilian Ascension? What was it?
No. Brazilian Ascension is frog flip.
Exactly. I wanted to point it out.
Gotcha.
Okay, so basically for everyone who has never heard about these words, slackline talk here, it's basically a chest bounce. So you land on your chest on the line, and then you do a front flip out of your chest. I still don't understand how you guys do that. He just had a double flip and lands onto his butt. And I thought about, you guys know I always have this, I come from near the mountains, I love snowboarding as well, and there's this Belgian guy, his name is Seb de Bac. And Seb is a big star in the snowboard scene, and it's quite unique because the guy is like nearly 2 meters tall. And basically for him to rotate is something completely different as for like a Marcus Cleveland or Mark McMorris or whatever, you know, because he's like 2 heads taller. And there is a different difficulty basically in that sense for people who are taller. But, and that's the thing, you have to be higher, you have to fly higher, and often it looks then very graciously. And I think you can see that when we take pictures of you always. But a little bit of brown nosing here for Marius, yeah.
That's an example at Portugal at the European Championship. I wanted to do a double backflip, and I had to go out of the crash pad to start. And that's ridiculous when I want to do your last trick and your biggest trick, and you have to go out of the crash pad to start the trick to get enough amplitude.
Yeah, so what I was saying is like we are jumping back now to today, because I mean this grassroots movement we can start initiating now, but realistically I guess there might be a movement which we could push now with, like, I would say maybe like smaller contests up to 20 people just together. Maybe they bring in a live stream or whatever so that we can all share it and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think the whole aspect of online contests is definitely something we want to talk with you guys and share basically your thoughts. Like I said, I would love to have a three-way contest, a three-way combo contest online, and then people can basically eliminate each other on a knockout mode. I don't know what you guys think about this.
It sounds like really fun. I mean, but starting from feet, then going to that and start the trick is going to be hard and a little limited to do big tricks, because
we can find a rule behind it, whether it's then preparation or not. But I would really like to say, like, okay, there's only 3 tricks that count. And then I think it makes it easy, because I think for anyone who hasn't never seen it, go to the subscription of this, the description basically of this live stream, because you will find lots of links down there in the description, which where you can see what crazy stuff these people can do. I mean, when you look at Choza flying super high, Rosa doing incredible static stuff, Jaan on the verge of becoming a movie star here with all his videos, because there's a lot of performance inside the whole story. Benni, I guess I'm surprised I haven't heard a high jump contest happening here, because I think he's ready to challenge anyone on this planet. And I think from that side, there's an incredible skill set happening here, and an incredible diversity which is already happening. But I think we need to find a connection. And one thing I really would like to do is have sort of like more different things. And one thing I would love to do is like an online contest for 3 tricks in one go, basically. Yeah. And do we have any other topics from your side? What we Axel?
Yeah. So basically, for example, we were speaking about that, and that's once again a question for Marius, and that's more like for everybody. It's how to find calendars or to find out where events happen. You always have to follow each or word to mouth, speak, and so on. And so one of the big questions is, where do we advertise events? Where do we say that events are happening. Because if you look on social media now, you just have so many notifications every day that it's quite hard to promote an event or just get people to know. And especially now with Corona, it's even harder to plan any event. So at the end, you might have to organize your event at the last minute. And I was just, for example, I just totally missed the competition in Czech Republic. I haven't seen it posted anywhere. And I was wondering, like, how come? And then the question is, like, where can we publish events so that people can find it easily? And for you guys, what would make the most sense?
I think in this case it would make the biggest sense. I mean, there are already calendars which are already pretty centered and centralized, but they only consist of highline and longline gatherings and festivals. I think that's more a thing for the community to combine one Slackline calendar, combining every event. I mean, we are again with the two disciplines. I think it's not one sport. Therefore, it should be one calendar containing all events.
So I think you're referring as well to the ISA calendar and the ISA system, and that's something I want to address as well. It's like I think there are different approaches how it can be done, and I really like what the ISA is doing, but at the same time there is still a little bit of difficulty of the connection between the Trickline aspect of how it's presented and what is inside it, and it's still a little bit unclear, and it's a lot about registration and other aspects, making it again a challenge, I would say, to basically handle it. And at the same time, the question is like, how well can we sort of like take any type of hub to not just have it accessible for us, but actually also for people who are new to the sport. And I think whether it's some sort of a Facebook channel or whatever, or it is something like the ISA where things are collected, and we just need to sort of like agree all together that then this is sort of like the platform where we look up and where we share and link it up. And I think this idea of joining forces, I think is important to basically create a greater effect, because like I said, we may have some possibilities to do things, but still, like you say in German, we're just a drop on a hot stone, and only if the community works together on this, we can really create a difference and an effect. Right. Crazy. People are suggesting back bounce contests. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess do you guys have any further topics you would like to address?
Yeah, so for me, I have my last questions. So when will be the next competition in Marius Garden? When will be the next competition in Benni's Garden or Uni Park in Stuttgart? When will be the next competition in Antarctica? Because there is even a lot of space for tents. So then when will be the next competition in the desert in Peru? And then where will be the next competition at your place, Bibi?
Where we can see you again in Antanga.
Julien ou chez toi?
I think we first should start with the Jaan Roose Invitational. I mean, it sounds sick. And no invitation, but it's sick. It's just a name.
Well, it's ready. Come in.
Okay, wait. Book a flight.
Open your calendars and let's find a date.
There was no joke.
Yeah. Actually, no, there were thoughts towards this, like this grassroots competition and regarding Antarctica. Well, I didn't name it. So anyway, what was it? Yeah. And then before this grassroots, I was thinking about like maybe in the future we could come up with some this backyard competitions. Maybe even international level, but I'm not forcing in a way like yeah let's do it now, but because there needs to be something in it. It needs to be a different way, not in a way it used to be. If I want to do like my place, for example. But yeah, at least the place is ready.
I guess from our side, we will basically roll out a campaign basically to help any type of community who wants to organize basically a contest, and connect it basically with support from various packages which we will basically offer, and then from that basis basically go out and then ideally do a road trip next year, because I would love to do that again. And I feel that's something that is more valuable at the moment, honestly, than a trade show. And I mean, there are no trade shows happening anyway at the moment, but which is actually quite nice. So we don't have to take care of them. And yeah, and then from that perspective, I think we could do some awesome stuff next year.
So it's actually, you know, also what reminds me, like creating a contest in my backyard, or Marius, or like somewhere else, or Benni, because in Estonia we have this thing called home contest. So go to maybe actually they do little concerts in someone's house. So you don't pay for the venue or the arena. Is it the internet okay? Because
it's better again.
So and little tours of them, like home concerts, like doing in different houses of people. So it's like a road trip, let's say. And it brings like, it gives this cozy effect, but still there's attendance, public. People
in France, you call it a flat marathon, and then you go from flat to flat, and then you just end up, you arrive at the last flat, and there is the big party, and everybody, half of the people usually don't find the way to the last flat.
Well.
All right. So guys, I would love to thank you. I would like to thank you as well for this interesting talk. And I think we will come out very soon, basically with an idea, like a way how we feel we can support, basically. And it will hopefully be an opportunity for you guys to be involved. I see the community is still making suggestions on which type of contests could be happening. Philip is very creative about highest and longest limo leap. I'd take part in that one. And and I think would love to have you on board when it comes to doing this road trip approach, and basically also these grassroots things, because I think it would create a lot of appeal as well for the outer world. You know, that theoretically you get yourself a line, and you could potentially, might be that a month later the best slackliners in the world are in your backyard. And I think, or you could actually create your own little contest and get social gathering. And at the same time, though, I think I want to still also work on pushing basically online contests, because it is probably a very viable solution to create something that is on a global scale. Because unfortunately, this is dilemma and luck at the same time. Slackline grew up with social media natives, with you guys, and you connected the sport into a global phenomenon straight away. Although it's maybe not in every household, or not on the same scale like loads of other sports, it became global immediately. And that makes it, of course, always a fairly big challenge to get sort of like everyone together. So I think we will have to think on a regional scale to keep sort of like our things happening. And I just wanted to point out on that side, people like Bibi here over the last 2 years have put his heart and soul into the whole story to keep basically tricklining going and growing basically in France. And there is a lot of dedication from people. And that's what we want to sort of like address as well. A lot of dedication and love from people who may not have a top athlete skill set, but just love the sport. And I think that's something we always have to highlight, that we all play our parts in that side. And just like I always know you guys, you should get yourself young Padawans. It's actually not hard to create a community. Just like I remember Philip Oleksik, it's a shame that he couldn't take part now, once said, it's like, at some point he said, like, he doesn't know any other trickliner in Poland. I was like, why? Because just go out there and start build a community. And that's been always sort of like the dilemma with you guys as athletes, because you were, to get at this level, you had to train a lot by yourself. And I think that's sort of like the dilemma where you were always strung in between. Yeah. So for anyone who's seen this, I would like to thank you all very much. For anyone who was looking at us basically here, I can see Adea says we should do our road trip in Mexico. We hope we can do something like that. We will have to see. Maybe we can do some connection where we have the South American people doing a trip towards maybe Central America or something like that.
I'm sure that Alison will have some space to host us.
Yeah, and we do something in Europe. I would love to have the Japanese travel outside their country as well. We could see some really interesting developments happening there. Because I think when I look at the beginning, it was never at this level when I started. But I mean, we started with no skill set, and we just started with socializing with loads and loads of people. All right, so thank you very much for watching. Thanks to everyone. Again, links are in the descriptions below. You might have heard about that we were talking, for example, about the Bones Brigade, and there was a development in skateboarding. There's a great movie to watch, and I skipped it straight to the point where it explained basically how this grassroots movement started in the early 80s in the US with skateboarding. I've got links down for various other topics, also for the Red Bull page, talking about tricklining. I will throw in also the system of the American Trickline Association, of the ATA, so that you guys can read into it. And yeah, subscribe to our channel. If you've managed to watch us for so long, I hope that you've subscribed then, hopefully, to our channel, because we will continue giving you more interesting information and news and knowledge about slacklining, the community, the Gibbon family, and all these things, and hope that we can meet at some point in our lives. All right, then. So I wish you guys a good night, a good evening, good morning, wherever you come from. And hope to see you soon in the future.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.